It's UFC 330 fight week. Islam Makhachev versus Ian Garry. Here are my quick and easy picks for this whole event. Let's go from bottom to top. Let's start with Jeremiah Wells versus Makhachev Oralbai. We're going Makhachev Oralbai. No disrespect to Jeremiah Wells, but Makhachev Oralbai at 170 pounds is a monster. Is a monster. This is his best weight class for him to perform at, and I expect him to perform very well versus Jeremiah Wells, getting either a knockout or a submission here. Let's move on to Neil Magny versus Brian Mash. Brian Mash is coming off a loss, and he's facing the gatekeeper of welterweight. He's a gatekeeper for a reason. He keeps out the guys that are pretty suspect in this division, and Brian Mash is suspect. Let's go Neil Magny. I think he's going to get a submission here. Rolling on to the next one, Rafael Tobias versus Lucas Fernando. Now, I would go Rafael Tobias based off of raw skill and raw talent. Yes, Fernando lost in the Dana White Contender Series, and now he's making his debut after facing a lot of fighters in an LFA. I'm going to go Fernando here because of just how bad Tobias' debut was. That was blood in my eyes. I could not rewatch that ever again, even for this fight. I could not watch that tape. There was nothing to study off that fight, except that he can't land a takedown and keep a guy down. Vicente Luque versus Tresean Gore. Give me Tresean Gore, guys. You got to realize this is not Luque prime, welterweight, 20-something years old. No, this is about 40-year-old Vicente Luque fighting at middleweight, which is a class above. And he's facing a guy in Tresean Gore who has been improving and is now very much improved with an awesome performance over Azamat Makhachev in his last fight, which I believe is, right now, better than Luque. Because Luque is not what Luque was once, you know what I mean? Not saying Makhachev is prime for prime better. Don't take me, don't misinterpret what I just said. Whole point is, I think Tresean Gore beats the Luque that we have right now. Give me Tresean Gore. Eric McConaughey versus Dante Johnson. Guys, Eric McConaughey, when the UFC sees he loses a fight, they use him as a layup for another fighter. That's what they're doing here for Dante Johnson. Dante Johnson is going to get a KO here or something. He's going to get a finish, I think so. And if it goes to decision, whatever. All I know is that Dante Johnson is being pushed by the UFC, and he's going to win this fight. Jalen Turner versus Kyle Fernandez. Kyle Fernandez, I will not forget that fight versus JKC. I understand you're 3-1. You're 3-0 since that fight. Jalen Turner is a different beast. You're not going to be able to deal with that length. I think Jalen Turner is going to get a very nice finish in this fight. Let's move on to Chidi Njokuani. I can never say this name right. I don't know why. I don't know if I have a lisp or something. It's just horrible. He's facing off against Yoel Alvarez. Yoel Alvarez, I think a lot of people are going to be underrating him now because of his loss versus Amosov. Amosov's a beast. Amosov's a beast. I don't think he's going to be champ, but he's a beast. Fair play to him, but I think Yoel Alvarez is going to have a nice time in this octagon. From what we saw from Njokuani is the fact that he is kind of like a one-punch guy. Let's be real. He has that one-punch power, but if he can't land on you, he's not going to do much. He has nothing else to rely on. He doesn't have amazing footwork. I believe Yoel Alvarez can sneak a nice decision here. I don't think he'll finish Njokuani, but yeah, I see Yoel Alvarez coming out on top. Edson Barboza versus Esteban Ribovics. This is the easiest fight to predict, in my opinion. Give me Esteban Ribovics by finish in the first round. Esteban's a killer on the feet. Don't let his last loss, distract you. He lost to a solid fighter, but Ribovics is, at this moment, Edson Barboza is not what Edson Barboza was. Watch the Jalen Turner fight. You'll understand what I mean. Even if you're an Edson lover, Ribovics is going to win by knockout in the first round. Let's go to Dustin Stolfus. I hope I said that name right. Versus Mansour Abdulmalik. Listen, Mansour Abdulmalik, horrid performance in his last fight. But he was also facing an awesome striker. Give me Mansour because I do feel this is, again, a layup fight. That's what the UFC likes to do to these guys when they come off a loss. When it's a prospect coming off a loss like that, and it's the middleweight division, you want to keep it interesting, they'll throw you a a layup, and I think this is a layup for him. I think he's going to get a first round finish or a second round finish here. Jose Ochoa versus Charles Johnson. Give me Jose Ochoa. He is dangerous. He is so dangerous. His 2 losses on his record. Yes, I understand, whatever. He lets fights go to a decision, and it, I don't want to say F's him over, but that's the word for it, you understand? But or else, Jose has his moments in these fights, and as you see, versus Charles Johnson, all you need is one moment. And I think the chin isn't there for Charles. He fights way too much. Yes, you gotta love activity, but his chin definitely doesn't love this activity that he's on. I think Jose Ochoa gets a nice finish in this fight. Moving on to Jillian Robertson versus Mackenzie Dern. I'm Canadian, I'm biased, but if I'm being real, stylistically, Jillian Robertson could win this fight. She could win this fight. I'm gonna roll with Jillian Robertson to get the win over Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern had, a fun performance in her last fight. Yes, it was a back and forth, but no, I don't think she's as high level as people are rating her, Neither fighter is the true champion of this division until Zhang Weili comes back. But as of now, give me Jillian Robertson. She's shown that she can mix it up. If she wants to take you down, she'll take you down. If she wants to strike with you, she could strike with you. Yes, Mackenzie probably has the better BJJ here, especially with her grappling background and obviously the medals, whatever. Not medals, competitions, you know what I mean. Give me Jillian Robertson. Give me Jillian Robertson. To take it back home to Canada. This may seem desperate, but Canada needs a belt. Come on, Jillian. You can do it. Let's move on to the main event. The most interesting part of the night. Islam Makhachev versus Ian Machado Garry. Arguably the fight that is... Well, no. Sorry, not arguably. The fight that is carrying this card, because this card is not actually a great card on paper. Let's just be real there, okay? You gotta be real with me. This is not a good card, Why is Mansour Abdul Malik on a main card? Why is Charles Johnson versus Jose Ochoa on a main card? Why is Edson Barboza still on a main card in the big 2026? Islam Makhachev versus Ian Garry. Now let's go through it. Islam Makhachev, guys, a lot of people are saying, oh, but he defended takedowns from Bilal. When they're talking about Ian, I believe Ian does have a path to victory here, yes. But they're using that as the main thing, and the fact that he went to Georgia now to practice his takedowns. What's different between Islam Makhachev and Bilal Muhammad's takedowns is the entries and the fact that Bilal goes for the high crotch, he'll go for the double leg. You won't see much other than that. Maybe you'll see him sneaking a single leg in there, but his entries are not that good on the singles. Islam, single, double, high crotch, judo takedowns. Now, I don't know the specific names of every single takedown, but I know the fact that he has judo in his background helps him so much more than you think, because when they're in the clinch, he can take you down from there much easier than a wrestling guy that has to go and shoot for the legs. He can do it all, so you don't know what he's gonna throw. He might just throw double legs the whole fight, but you're gonna think he's gonna do something in the clinch that's different, because there's multiple things you have to practice for when you're facing Islam Makhachev. It's not every other wrestler. And Islam Makhachev on the other side of it also, he can also strike with you. People are acting like he's not an intelligent striker. Yes, he is. Versus JDM, you saw just how intelligent of a striker he was. He fought that fight very smart, and he didn't take many risks. He admitted to that. But you saw just how high IQ this individual is, especially versus a JDM that had to be desperate at moments and couldn't be because of just how smart this man was. Ian Machado Garry, on the other hand. Ian, again, very high IQ striking. His grappling constantly improving. He's going to have that long reach advantage in this fight, which is very advantageous, yes. But again, he hasn't faced a grappler to the pedigree of Islam Makhachev. I don't believe Shavkat Rakhmonov has better grappling than Islam. But I will say this. In the first 2 rounds, where Shavkat was very fresh he was able to take Ian down, not easily, but pretty, like, you know, you can call it pretty easy. You can call it pretty easily, pretty handily. I think that's going to be a significant problem. I understand Gary's constantly improving, but he hasn't had to deal with this type of grappler. And this is why I do feel that Islam is going to win. All right? Now, this whole week I've been wrestling with the fact of Ian has these advantages. He's been constantly improving. Yes. But I think we forget about the gap between lightweight skill and welterweight skill. And when you have a guy that was fighting a lightweight but has the frame that could fight at a welterweight, it's a real problem. It is a significant problem because Islam is able to set up the striking. He's able to set that up and use the grappling. He's able to do whatever he wants in there. I think, you know, a lot of people are saying that Ian has way too much advantages because Islam isn't used to this weight. I think you got to rethink that. The guy's gained a lot of muscle now. His coach said he gained around 11 pounds. I don't know if it's full muscle. I don't think so. I think it would be at least 5 pounds of muscle and then 11 pounds. And then the other 6 pounds are probably fat. Yes. But I think Islam's growing into this frame, and I think it's going to be a good night for him. Give me Islam Makhachev. I don't think he gets a finish over Garry. I don't think so at all. I think it's going to be a decision. I think it's either going to be 4-1 Islam or 3-2 Islam, but I do think Makhachev comes out on top in this fight. This is no disrespect to Ian Garry, but I just think Makhachev has the better chance here. Comment down below, who do you guys got in this main event, and what do you think about this card breakdown? I know, it was perfect. It was perfect. Let's be real there. See you guys in the next one.